record. And so we are now recording. So this is a little webinar with Athena Bradley, who works for Wyndham Solid Waste Management, and she is an expert in composting and I guess recycling too. Do you do recycling too, Athena?
Yes. Oh yeah, the whole integrated thing.
Okay, so she is basically the person who works there who would be able to help you answer questions, and she is available for site visits and all kinds of things. So we thought we would kind of open the conversation today and then make it an ongoing conversation. So I think, and I will say maybe we can go through the slides, but I think the two biggest issues that we have in the Valley, not unusual, are bears. So meat scraps and bones are kind of a big concern in waste for food scraps. So a lot of people have been diverting Allison says we and Big Bear have been feeding Dover pigs and goats for the last year. So that's great. And then Isabel said they're feeding pigs with their food scraps. That does not take care of meat scraps and bones. And so that's
we could talk about that
issue. And then another issue that came in to me, and it has been an ongoing issue in downtown Wilmington, is the bear issue. So I was reading Big Bear and I'm like, oh no, that's not a bear issue. That's just another in-property. But we do have kind of we have had ongoing issues with bears. And so that's a concern. And so then the additional cost of bear-proof containers and how to create that, and then how to make it convenient for people, because especially in Wilmington, our transfer station is not super convenient. It's a little bit out of the way. So it's not just a quick run. It's you need to, if you're making a dump run, you're driving 20 minutes each way, wherever you are in Wilmington. So that's something that we like to think about. Can we create some kind of solution that works for people in the downtown? And what does that look like? And, how many pigs and goats and chickens do we have that need food? So Athena, do you want to bring up the slides, or do you want me to bring up the slides and we can go through those?
Either way, go ahead and we'll just go through them quickly.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second.
So I just wanted to give you all a background so that we're all on the same page. And so that's what these slides will do.
Find my, hold on. Okay,
that?
I just have to find, obviously have too many things.
Yeah, I've got
it on my screen here. So hold on. Let me go to my.
And just to let you all know, I've been 30 years in this business. So I've been doing integrated materials management, and I do setting up recycling programs, and then in now the food scrap diversion. And I'm also a compost expert and a food diversion expert. So we talk about all the options, and I'm well aware of those. And I am available to come on site and do training, to train your staff, and we will work on helping you with signage and all that kind of stuff for like free. And we can talk about container options and collection options and all kinds of diversion options that are available, and address your concerns about bears and odor issues. And because I realize we've walked around Wilmington a couple times now, so I'm well aware of your density issues and and all the concerns. So. And we're here to hear more of your concerns so that we can address those as well. Okay, so this is my contact information. Meg knows how to get a hold of me, but feel free to reach out at any time. So back in 2012, Vermont adopted the Universal Recycling Law, Act 148. And basically through a phased-in plan, scheduled in diversion of recyclables out of the website or out of the waste stream, and then starting with food scraps with the bigger institutions and bigger generators like your shopping centers, Price Shoppers, things like that, and then universities and most Vermont schools are doing composting or diversion to animals. And then also special events. So Now it's come down to all of us being required to do that. So next slide, Meg. So the reason that Vermont adopted this is because one, our landfill was getting close to closure and no one wants to pay for a new landfill, and certainly no one wants to live next to a new landfill. New landfill has huge requirements and there's lots of citizen opposition and huge amount of costs. So the state went through all looking at all these options and the way to phase in diversion in order to save landfill space. And then the other impact of food scrap diversion is it does, again, reduce landfill space. It reduces our carbon footprint. And mostly that's because when you put food scraps into the landfill, they decompose anaerobically, which means without air, and they generate methane gas. So it's the same thing that is methane coming off of agricultural systems and such like that. So it has a huge dent when you remove food scraps from the landfill, that it does not contribute then to global greenhouse gases and warming. And then also these resources tend to be used locally. So we can help our communities by developing mechanisms to get food scraps to agricultural systems or to backyard composters or even pets, and then or on-site composting to create compost, and also or taking it away to any of the transfer stations will either go to our compost facility here in Brattleboro, which is ran by our solid waste district, or down into Martin's Farm in northern Massachusetts. So it is made in the compost there. Okay, next slide, Meg. So various diversion options very quickly, practice smart preparation in your restaurant or you're in, and I'm well aware of these things if you need assistance. Donate to local food pantries and and we can work with Meg to check out the guidelines on that and what the availability is, because there are some, concerns about the usable food and what that means to restaurants and inns. And then as we heard, some of the restaurants are already giving leftovers to backyard chickens or local farmers for livestock fees. So that's a great way to distribute food scraps to a benefit. You can ask your employees, ask your neighbors, friends, if they have these options or know of these options that might exist, and we can help coordinate that. And then you can also contract with the local food scrap collection agency and or your transfer station, I believe, takes them. Okay, next slide, Meg. So they can go to Windham County if you have an access sticker for Windham County, which a lot of businesses do, down for our transfer station at Brattleboro, so we can take them there. And you can also compost on site for smaller businesses, and there are ways to do that that do not attract bears. All right, I think that's it, Meg.
Slides. Oh, we got, okay. Oh, and then
we're here to plan. So yeah, so a little note on that. So the state does want us to start planning for food scrap diversion. So we've been meeting, I've been with Meg, so you guys are covered there. We're holding this webinar. We're planning out, site visits and with folks in Wilmington. And it's the same all around the district. The state is well aware that businesses, have been hampered financially and with staff and with all other issues regarding the COVID. So they're not at all targeting businesses that are starting to do food scraps, and even those that are kind of waiting to see what happens in terms of when they're opening and such. So if you get any kind of contact from the state, please refer them to me and we will talk about that, because we are backing all of our businesses around the district. So, but my understanding in my various calls with the ANR is that they are not concerned yet. So we have plenty of time to plan.
So I just wanted to say, I think for a lot of people who are just in, I don't know, people might be at different points in their, whatever, getting their head around this. And so I guess what would you say, Athena, for a business, what's the place to start? Is that with, I think there you talked about sort of doing a food waste audit so people can gauge, like, how much are we talking about? Like, how much food scrap waste am I generating out of my kitchen? I think, am I correct in saying that's kind of stage one for any restaurant?
Yeah, what I would suggest is I could do a walk around, and I could work with Meg to find out maybe the best time to do that and spend the morning in Wilmington and just walk around. And I have a very short 2-page survey that I do for and with businesses, and much of that I can do like just looking outside and seeing your dumpster sizes and who's your hauler and all that. So I try to fill out all that information as much as possible, and then would come in and talk with you and let you know what services I can provide. And then also, and most importantly, is to talk with you about what you see as viable options to meet your needs as a business. Are you doing anything right now? And what options have you explored? And then we'll go from there. And then working with Meg, we are trying to explore with you as businesses, and we'll continue to do this, and other property managers, because I know there are a lot of property managers who have residents, so that's a whole nother issue. And then I know there's an issue with inns and starting very slowly to open up, if at all, and then businesses. So, so we want to work out a common dumpster area if we can, to meet those businesses that maybe generate just a little bit, or talk about options for smaller generators. And then I know even bigger, larger generators in your downtown area, which is also happening in Brattleboro, because we have these huge issues as well about space and concerns. So that's something we would want to talk with all of the generators. And also safe storage of the food scraps to limit any bear intrusions, but also work at economic ways to do that kind of storage. And so I have ideas on that.
I just wanted to share that what I got from the nutmeg, because I thought it really encapsulated a lot. So she said, at the Nutmeg, which is in outside of town, and they also have a building in the downtown, they've been trying to meet the new standard. Their obstacle is the bears. So no one really has an answer yet. So they have a bear problem. The waste removal companies do not offer bear-proofed compost bins, and the state doesn't require that they do. So the problem and the added expense of composting and dealing with bears then falls to the business owner. So they don't have a dumpster right now. So they have a large wheeled trash can and a large compost bin. And so those live inside their shed, which is not ideal because it's not really like properly bear proof. So the question is, because there's a free option of taking your compost to the transfer station. But again, as we said, that's not practical for most businesses in Wilmington and Dover, because it's pretty far away. And so then you still have to have some place to collect the compost. And so you really need a bear proof location. So the question is, the added expenses that people are facing are the idea of the cost of a bear proof shelter to hold bins, the added cost of a compost bin, and then the added cost of having curbside pickup because the driver has to get out of the truck to pick up the compost. So that's just one Wilmington business, but I think that's pretty representative of what people are facing. I mean, and I will say one of the things Athena and I talked about was, is there a place where could the town of Dover or the town of Wilmington find a location, maybe it is a business or property, where there could be, we could construct a bear-proof shed that has a key code access that local businesses could then bring their materials and then share the cost of having that picked up weekly. Or if somebody's willing to drive it out to the compost, the shop, whatever, work it out amongst yourself. If there was someone who said, sure, I'll take it out to the dump weekly, it is a heavy lift. It's a lot of work. And so how can we make that? Let's see. And there's 2 messages in the chat too. Okay, Allison Ferris says, one of our big problems is the food the guests bring home from restaurants. And so then they've got guests bringing takeout in. This is a new post-COVID thing, bringing takeout and eating there. And then how do they dispose of that food waste? So then, the guests may be just throwing that in the garbage. And then how do you separate that out? And then
that's from an inn, so that would be
that's
a
an inn
common issue at a lot of the inns now,
these days,
probably.
right? Where people are getting takeout and bringing it in. So in a restaurant, the problem is you can divert your own
Right.
food scraps that you're generating in your kitchen, and you can have
Yep.
servers scrape plates. But if people are taking takeout and then you're in an inn and they're putting it in your trash, how do you encourage them to dispose of that properly? So, and then she's also
My first recommendation for all restaurants and inns that may serve food is to always start with your pre-consumer. So only start with your kitchen scraps. And that doesn't meet the letter of the law, but it's a part of the planning phase. And so that meets the letter of the law. And it's also a way for restaurants and inns and other food providers to scale up. But that way too, you get your system down in your kitchen. It's less contaminants. It's a smaller amount, because dealing with customers can be a big issue. And I get that, because there's a lot of people from, other states that don't do food scrap diversion and aren't even aware of it at all. So that would be something we would work entirely different, because there's a different educational system for that. And maybe, hopefully, if COVID disappears more, then more restaurants can open up and less takeout service. But, I get it that that's an issue for now. So, but put that on the back burner. Don't worry about that right now. It's something we'll talk about. And we'll get started with the easier scale up stuff first.
Let's see. So, and actually Allison does make a good point in the chat. She says restaurants are giving a lot of food, so it's like they're over serving. So maybe for takeout, think about, restaurants can think about, maybe it would save some costs for you too, not serving so much in a takeout portion, maybe scaling back the portions.
Yeah.
So cutting back on food waste. I mean, it cuts down on cost anyway. So that's an interesting comment. Isabel, did you have questions specifically, or do you want to share what's been working for you at the Village Roost?
The challenges that we're having is, of course, the customers just throwing everything all together, using our kitchen, our composting bins outside as garbage. I think that the town also needs to do a better job with garbage cans around just for refuse. We have people going into our dumpsters all the time throwing stuff out. Right. It's a huge problem for us. So we actually put a lock on it, and we still have people putting their garbage on top of our dumpsters too.
Okay.
So I think we need more garbage cans around town just in general for people now, with the whole mandate with the takeout foods. Mm-hmm. I mean, people do come in, and we have so many Dunkin' Donut cups in our garbage cans all the time, because what do people do with them? There's, nowhere to dump those. So that has been a problem. As far as starting to train customers, I think that there should be a program where you could maybe collectively get a contract of getting those recyclable bins, like one that says, food scraps, one that says whatever. They're expensive. I mean, and for us to go out right now and spend, a couple $1,000s on these units to stick into our restaurant, I mean, it's just not feasible right at this moment. If there was a way that we could maybe get a local builder to give us like a really good product that we could use inside our stores, even just for our employees to have like a central area, so our employees could then clear the tables and throw out all the things into the proper bins. So I think that right now it's just a challenge of space for us as far as putting units like that inside the building. and maintaining our garbage. And our garbage company is not very reliable. I had to call them 4 times last week in order for them to pick up our bins. And the excuse was every single time, oh, it's I don't know what happened. It was a substitute driver. It's unacceptable for a company that we're paying that is supposed to come on Mondays and they pick up at Bartleby's, but don't come to us until Thursday. I mean, our busy time is on the weekend, so our bins get pretty full. And like I said, people have been using them to dump their personal stuff in there also. So
I can say we do have one more trash can that we can't place downtown. We had moved it out of the South Main Street lot because it was being extensively used for household garbage. So that's something we can kind of address immediately, and getting another trash can in downtown Wilmington. So
like even somewhere just like right in front of, like, you know, pick between us and Pickles, or us and somewhere along that line, or in front of restaurants in general, just because then people could like not bring their Dunkin' Donut cups into our facilities.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately they still will, but let's talk about solutions for that. So Isabel, who's your current hauler?
We were Tam, who was brought up by Casella.
Okay, so you're Casella. Yeah, their service
Sucks.
You didn't hear that from me, but
no, it's terrible. And then, it's like I constantly call them. I have to say, the dumpster stinks. It's been 90 degrees. You do have any product to put inside there? And it's like
yeah. So that's something we are experimenting with at the district, because we collect food scraps. So I can get you odor control information. It's a low cost product.
Huh.
But I have also, like, wood shavings would help, and some of the haulers like Triple T provide wood shavings. Pam used to provide them.
They gave us wood shavings. They did. Sawdust.
Okay, well that's good. So a good coating on the food scraps for that will help control odors.
Right.
Also, I'm assuming you're using compostable. Compostable bags. Okay. So what I'd like to do, Isabel, and we'll do this offline or with Meg, is find a time to come meet with you, and so I can assess your training needs, both for your employees and staff, and then also your customers. And then look at your space. And I think we did walk by and we spoke with you and looked at your space concerns. So. And then, Meg, I had a question for you. Do you have an illegal dumping ordinance in your town? Because that would be something to pursue.
Okay.
And then you could make stickers or signs to post on the dumpsters for people, or at least on a wall someplace. Right. And you can put even camera monitors if you need to. But
we've tried
dumping
that.
Is.
Right.
Huh?
We've had big issues with that. And Gretchen, maybe you can weigh in. We've had big issues with that in town, where, we have a lot of Airbnb rental properties, and then so there's not clear signage what to do with garbage. And then we have a lot of apartments that were
right. So let's talk about that.
Right. They were using town trash cans as their personal dumpster. And so we did try putting signage, and then we just said, what we're going to do? We're actually going to just move this trash can. And then it stomped because they didn't have a place to put it, so they weren't going to dump it on the road. So that was last fall.
Yeah.
But Gretchen can do you have a comment? And then we had a lot of problems with our recycling bins downtown creating dumping. So maybe Gretchen can comment.
Right. Yeah.
So we do not have an ordinance around illegal dumping. I mean, like, there's, we could have a police officer go investigate it, that kind of thing. But we had, people using our regular, the trash cans that Meg was talking about, that are throughout town, with, a lot of people just dumping their own household garbage in there.
Right.
And,
so that could be added to an ordinance, and then I find posting it at least detour some of the illegal dumpers.
Yeah. I just want to say out loud, and especially for these restaurants who are just trying to make a living through COVID-19. It's just like
No, I
this
get it.
endemic, and having this on top of it is just really daunting, and it's not fair to them. And, and especially the extra cost, as Isabel noted, like, it's just like the timing of this was horrendous, and it's just not fair. And I wish that the state would find some funding for them to help them, comply with this rule. And, I understand it. And I think that it's important that we do move forward in this direction for, because our landfills are getting filled, and, and our environment and all of these things are really important issues. But this isn't fair to them. This is not fair. And, I'm sorry that I'm like hijacking here, but I just wish that the state would say, let's put this off, a little bit longer. But anyway.
Yeah, they don't want to rescind the law, so I get that. But I will talk with them about maybe if they would come out with a letter to say, yes, we're thinking about it, but, and we respect that restaurants are thinking about it, and we would encourage you to do so. But, there's going to be no enforcement of this for X, kind of thing. So I will call them and or email them today and suggest these comments, because you're not the only ones that have made them, obviously. And in particular with the small town, just the small town layouts that include, a lot of properties up above restaurants that have your inns and your and tenants subletting. So I respect that, Gretchen, and we'll relay that and just see and work on trying to get them to come up with somebody. Okay. But in the interim, I would like to do at least some homework with all of you guys and work with the folks who are making an attempt and try to get that up and running and low cost and meet a lot of the concerns and do some recognition for them as model businesses that are conquering this. So.
Justin, do you have any input as a restaurant that's doing a pretty high volume right now? Have you guys thought about this? What are you guys doing with waste? Do you have anything?
We have enough trouble with people putting the recyclables in the recycling containers. So having them separate food, we haven't even thought about that yet. I mean, we have signs at our pails now that say, recyclables, trash, and people throw all the trash in the recycling bins, and our employees got to go through it at the end of the night. So as far as separating food scraps, we haven't even started with that yet.
Have you thought about it?
A whole nother
And Justin, you're the transfer station attendant?
No, this is Justin. No, he's a chef.
You're a chef. Okay, my bad. So where are you a chef at?
I'm the brewer at Snow Republic.
Snow Republic?
Yeah, I'm in West Dover.
You're in West Dover. Okay. So I haven't been up your way, but I can certainly come up your way and help you. But again, don't worry about food scraps. Get your recycling down, and then start the food scraps in your kitchen if you can. So, but let's get together and maybe with Eric, and I'll make a plan to come up in the next week or 2 weeks.
Sure.
Dover. Do you know, like for your kitchen, are they able? They're just doing the food truck kitchen right now. Is that right?
Yeah,
so
we just have the food truck.
So, I mean, that's, sort of stage one is to say getting any compostables out of like the brewery and out of the kitchen, and kind of figuring out how to deal with those and what the volume is first stage. Because, right, like we say, the hardest thing is the customers. So,
so just don't worry about it right now, Justin. I'll come up and in next couple of weeks, and we will get together.
Is
I
there
mean,
a,
at this point, like I give after I brew, I give my spent grains to a local that feeds them to his
That's
pigs.
excellent.
Why would I just give
Yep.
them all the food scraps too?
That would certainly work from your kitchen because they'll be clean that way. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that, and then I can work with, just providing some training for your staff, and then work on some kind of inexpensive collection option for you for storage to go
Okay.
out there. So, yep, because I
Yep.
have worked with brewers before.
and I think it would be good just to say, just while we've got everyone on here, is there a day of the week or time that's better, like for Athena to like swing up to Dover? I know, in Wilmington, we could pick a day earlier in the week. Oh, we have Janet here too. She's got a farm. Will she accept compost? What is a good day for this to happen, just for the people who are on this call? So Allison, Ned, Justin, and Dover, is there a day when there's enough people around that would make it worth it, a time, or should we just pick and we'll hopefully?
As far as employees are,
I think just for kitchen, looking at your operation and making a plan with the people that would be generating the waste. So I think that's kitchen, brewery for you, for Allison and Royal and Ned, themselves.
so right now we run the kitchen Thursday through Sunday. So I would say like Thursday morning be maybe around 9 or 10 would be best for us.
Okay.
That's when the chef is here. So
Okay, that might work well then. So Eric, let's think about a Thursday, because I think that's true for many Dover businesses that they're open on.
Okay.
So maybe a Thursday, because we could maybe,
Yep.
and then maybe we could do 1 week Dover and 1 week Wilmington.
Yep.
So we're not trying to do it all in one
sounds
day.
good. Okay.
Okay, Allison,
And-
she's always there. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'll communicate with Eric too, and we'll work out a way to get the word out on that, and people can contact me. I just wanted to also say, in terms of containers, I mean, I realize and definitely respect that inns and restaurants need to portray a good-looking container. So in the interim, and in particular for your kitchen areas and such, we will work on getting stickers. I do have the universal symbols, which we're trying to use around the state, and I showed you the food scrap one in my presentation. So those are things that we could at least put on collection containers for now and try to make them look as nice as possible. But then there are options for maybe bulk purchasing some lower cost containers that would be could be purchased through the district or maybe Wilmington Works, and then we could pass that cost on to businesses who are interested. So that's something there. And we're also working on possibly doing a bulk buying of compostable bags, and then that way we at the district could sell them to the towns, and they could meter them out to the businesses or something like that. So because those are really good ways to control your odors, is to use those compostable bags.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, I think that we can sort of make a plan for, I think if we have a sense of what the costs are going to be and how we can distribute them, then we can make a plan to see if there's ways that towns can subsidize some of that stuff or not. We need to have a number to make a request, kind of thing. And it would be great. And we can also, kind of push local legislators as well to maybe work with getting some funding from on a state level. I think it's really important. So maybe we can write a letter and have circulate it among our businesses to sort of see if they can appropriate some funding to be made available to either directly to businesses or to municipalities. We can always do that.
And I would emphasize in that the fact that you have a lot of inns and you have a lot of people coming to stay for short time stays, and then so there's a lot of takeout, and there's like huge issues on that. So and I will also talk at our next recycling meeting about that as well. And then I will again write A&R and express your concerns.
Okay. I think that's like a good place to start is maybe if we set up a couple of site visits and we'll get a Thursday. Janet, did you have questions? I know you jumped in later. Did you have questions around compost recycling?
I jumped in late. I had a previous Zoom commitment, so I'm sorry about that. I guess my question stems from Airbnb and what how is that going to be figured in?
Well, it's the same thing. You are under the mandate. Airbnbs actually have a lot of options because you could compost on site, and we do have bear-proof options for composting on site. You can often do, since you have a smaller scale food scraps, often do diversion through your employees. They have backyard chickens, the livestock option, and even pets, feeding the scraps to their pets, is a lot of employees will do that. So, and then your option would also then be to feed in, if we can get a common enclosure that we can store them in for smaller generators, or take them to your transfer station. So you do have options there, but happy to stop by and talk with you on your situation. And again, it's not something that you'll have to rush into right away, but you will have to.
Landlords. I think landlords and short-term rentals are the concern.
Yeah.
That's a concern, and that's a big concern in downtown Wilmington too. So that's how we get a lot of illegal dumping going on, is the short-term rentals. So that's an issue for everybody, maybe a separate issue, but I think it is one that we need to talk about. And so Janet, maybe we can convene a call for landlords as well, and people who deal with short-term rentals, if you're handling some of those, because I think that is a big issue. People not making proper arrangements for those people that are staying, or for tenants, and I think that's why we get that dumping in our town trash cans.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, even a flyer from your like your tourism office that we could put together and just say, in Vermont it's mandatory to do your recycling, and we can start with that, and then when we get food scrap in place, also food scraps, and here's where your bins are, and here's the information about how you are required to sort when you come to Vermont, kind of thing. And that's actually an idea that maybe A&R could work on.
Okay, and for inns too, I think that would be great to have a flyer that you could distribute to landlords, short-term rentals, and inns. And just that would help with the education. And just in your end too, it's just the education. Yep. People don't care, So, but if it's
it might reach some people,
right?
And
eventually, if they see it enough times, maybe it just creates awareness.
Yeah, and it helps the inn owners. So please do this to keep them safe, and so.
Great. Okay. Well, that sounds good. So that sounds good if we can work with A&R to maybe get a statewide flyer for landlords, Airbnbs, and even restaurants, so that can just be posted as education. And let's get some site visits going to look at how we can actually make this happen as much as possible. And dealing with the kitchen scraps, I think, is a really good place to start, because that's some place where restaurants and inns, you have more control. You don't have as much control over what your customers are going to do. But if we have a sense of what are the things that you guys need in your facility to start that process, or in town, then we can start working on making it happen, to create the pathways to make it easy. So if it's just knowing a list of farmers who accept scraps for pigs, spent grains and kitchen scraps, that's a great resource that we can make available to restaurants. Or if it's creating some place in downtown areas, they're high density, where a shed could be constructed that's bear proof, and that could be used by multiple people and share.
Yeah, I think a multi-prong approach could meet the needs of most of your generators, so that would be a goal.
All right, and as we say, it's all a goal. So the compost police aren't coming yet, but if we can start working on it, it's good. does anybody else have questions now, or shall we just go on and we'll get the word out on, Eric and Dover can work on that, and I can work on Wilmington on when Athena can come and just go around and visit places in the morning, and then we can get a handle on it. Does that sound like a good place to go from? Anyone else have more questions? Allison says that sounds good. And Janet, let's also have a conversation with short-term rentals and Airbnbs, which is sort of a slightly different conversation, but it can happen at the same time. Nat or Royal, did you guys have anything, or you? I think that's good. Okay, I hear my dog barking like an insane maniac in the background. So maybe we can just leave it here, and then I'll post this information. We'll share with everybody, and we'll let you know when Athena is available for a visit to one-on-one to check out your operation, and we can work on that. Thank you, Athena.
Thank you.
Coming.
Yeah, and you all have my email. Feel free to chime in and add anything if you want. So feel free to contact me.
I'm going to put that in the chat. What's your email again? Is that recycle@Wyndham?
Solidwaste.org.
And Wyndham solidwaste.org. Okay.
Yep.
That's how you got Athena, recycle@wyndhamsolidwaste.org. Feel free to reach out with questions, because I know Athena's really good about catching up with all those and addressing them, because it's really a one-on-one thing. For every business is a little different. So cool.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me.
Well,
and don't worry about things.
Don't worry too much.
Don't worry.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.